So I already have a starter, and this is the one I took from the fridge. And yeah, you take some out. Well, I use normally a 75%, so this starter is 75% hydration. For the panettone recipe, we will make 100% starter. Therefore, you see me like measure 20 grams of starter, 20 grams of flour, and 20 grams of water to create the 100% hydration starter. And I don't encourage you to use this kind of jar. I'm just showing you how I did it. And yeah, that's basically it. And this is how I do it normally, and I would suggest that you also do it this way. So when I do normal starter, I first start measuring the starter, and then I calculate the other numbers. And as I said, you saw I wrote 75%. So normally I use 75% of hydration starter, as I said before. And that's how I measure the water, the flour, and yeah, this is how I mix it. Normally it's much easier to mix it like that, and then I take it out of there and put it in a round jar. Alright, and close it, and that is all you have to do. The cleaning part when working with starter is also very important. So I put hot water in all the equipment I used. I take a strainer and I put something to catch all the leftover dough. And yeah, basically I clean all the equipment and don't just like rinse the sourdough starter straight down the drain, cause it can harden and clog your pipes, and that is something not many people show you, and just as a warning. Now that is my 75% starter. I have refreshed and waited for around 3 to 4 hours. And I wouldn't use it for baking now, cause it will grow larger, but I'm just going to show you the process of what to do when you refresh your starter. So you wait till it's ready or nearly ready, depending if you want to bake or not. And all the sourdough starter you want to keep, you put it into a new jar, and all the sourdough starter you want to discard, I put it onto a plastic wrap and then basically, yeah, throw it away. Yeah, you can close the jar airtight and then put it into the fridge for 1 to 1.5 weeks before you need to refresh it again. Now, as you can see, for the Lievito, we only need 15 grams of 100% hydrated active sourdough starter. And that is why I use this small amounts of flour to starter ratio, because I normally, as I said, I use a 75% hydrated starter, and therefore all the starter I didn't use for the Lievito in the Panettone, I discarded it. And as you have seen in the video, I refreshed my normal starter, which I use, my normal 75% hydration starter, and that one I kept. But of course that changes if your normal standard is 100% hydration starter. If you always use 100% hydration starter, of course, you would need to take a higher amount of flour and starter. So maybe you will need to take 40 grams of flour, 40 grams of starter, and 40 grams of water. So you will have some sourdough starter left over, which you can then keep into, put it into a new jar, into a clean jar, and put it into the fridge. So you have starter left to use for the next time, to refresh for the next time. Here you can see that my starter has doubled in size for sure. So now we are gonna do the floating test, which basically means the starter should float on the water. As you can see here, it doesn't sink. So it doubled in size and it doesn't sink. That means it's ready to use. Now we measure the 15 grams of the 100% hydrated active sourdough starter. We add the 39.5 milliliters of water and we dissolve the starter in the water. After the starter is dissolved, as you can see, I add the 79 grams of flour and we start kneading. After kneading the dough, we will do basically the same thing as she does right now in the video. Also, I wanted to mention that while filming this video, I used twice the amount of each ingredient for the Lievito. So that is why everything looks more than what you will be using. Because I have now adjusted the recipe with the right quantities, as I for myself have made some wrong calculation. So when you yourself make the recipe, you will end up wasting almost none of the Lievito. And I personally did submerge the whole dough under the water, and that is how mine looked like in the jar, which was too small, but also the dough was too much. This is my time, but your time may differ depending on the temperature, the flour. It may take 8 hours, it may take 10 hours. This is very independent. Since I had a too small jar for too much dough, I had to cut out all the dried dough who went outside of the jar. That is how the Lievito looked like, how it fermented. And now I'm taking it out with one spoon and helping out with another one. I'm weighing the 126.5 grams. And as you see, I basically wasted half of the Lievito because I calculated it wrongly. And now I add the 220 milliliters of cold water, and also add the 440 grams of flour and the 97.7 grams of sugar, and we start mixing the whole dough on lowest speed, while we also add approximately the half amount of the egg yolks in this first stage. And at this point, slowly we can also adjust the speed of the mixer and make it a little bit faster. As you can see here, I put it on the second speed. It's still not fast, it's slow, because we have to keep in mind the faster we mix, the more temperature we create. And here you can see I just helped the dough a little bit come together by taking a small spoon and putting the dough inside. And yeah, after 17 minutes, which is pretty long, I tested the gluten structure, the dough came together and the gluten net was properly created. So here again I cut the butter a little bit. You can see it's really soft. I let it like come to room temperature and get soft for about 4 hours or so. And I start by adding the egg yolk, the remaining egg yolks. So by now we have all the egg yolks inside the dough, and also we add the butter, the soft butter, and we keep mixing it. And we mix it until everything gets incorporated. And yeah, here you can see after some time I decided to stop the machine, and I just yeah, like helped it out a little bit with my hands. I did some stretch and folds and did loosen the dough from the bottom, and then place it into the middle of the machine again and continued kneading on first speed. First speed is always the lowest speed. Here you can see I adjusted the speed a little bit higher and continued kneading the dough, and I decided to help it a little bit out again by pushing the dough inside the dough hook so it gets properly net. And as you can see, I also never go too fast on the mixing part. Although I may increase the speed slightly to the second or third speed, it still is quite slow, because I don't want to knead it too fast so the temperature doesn't go up too fast. Because when I knead it on slower speed, as I'm doing it right now, I turn the speed down again a little bit, the temperature will go up slower. And especially when the dough already is put together pretty well, you don't want to overmix it, and it is unnecessary to mix it on higher speed. And here you see I stopped because the dough was perfectly ready, the temperature was also good, and the gluten structure is really good. As you can see, it's really thin, the dough doesn't break. And you also take a small measuring cup and then a small portion of the dough you just kneaded, form it into like some sort of little ball just to place it inside of your transparent round measuring cup or something transparent, so it's easier for you to track the fermentation process. And with the main dough you basically do the same thing. And I took my plastic dough scraper and I poured some water on it to prevent the dough from sticking. And now you see I'm stretching the dough, I'm building strength, I'm building gluten, I'm strengthening the gluten, and now I put it into my bowl and I'm sealing it airtight. That is very important, always airtight. So here you can see for me it took 11 hours and 30 minutes till my dough was ready. It tripled in size. It may take 9 hours, it may take 10, 11, 12 hours for you. It is very independent and you just have to observe it yourself. So yeah, I just put all the dough inside my kneading machine, the dough from the measuring cup, the dough which was inside of the bowl, just the whole dough, and then you just sift 110 grams of flour. At least I sifted the flour. the 110 grams of flour and start kneading it on the lowest speed. And after 2 minutes, you see I sped up a little bit, just slightly on the second speed. And unfortunately, I somehow forgot that the dough was mixing and I over-kneaded it. And then I put it together with my hands. I tested the gluten, it was good. And so I added the 78.3 grams of sugar, starting kneading it on lowest speed, and slightly after 2 minutes or so, I increased to the second speed and always checking temperature. After 3 minutes, I stopped, tested the gluten. It wasn't strong enough, so I continued kneading and on the lowest speed as the temperature was pretty high. And as I said, we don't want to go over 26 degrees. And although it doesn't look good, at least at the bottom, the gluten was strong. It didn't break, so I was satisfied. And here, actually, before I added the salt, I waited around 5 minutes, like 3 to 5 minutes, just long enough, not too long, long enough that the dough cools down before I start kneading the salt, because my temperature was around 25.5 degrees. And when we add the salt, this is the only time the machine runs at a very high speed. So here you can see I put it onto the 4th speed or so. This is really fast, and this will increase the temperature pretty much much quicker. And I'm just helping a little bit again with the spoon, and this will take around 2 to 4 minutes till the salt gets incorporated into the dough. And here I'm checking the gluten and it's built properly, and that is why I rested before I kneaded the dough, because I knew when I knead the dough with the salt, I will knead it on a high speed, and it will increase the temperature. So afterwards I added the egg yolks. This time we add the whole all at once, and here pretty much again pretty low speed, like second speed probably, checking the temperature, always checking the temperature. I don't want to overheat the dough. And here you saw I decreased the speed, and it helped the kneading hood to get the dough correctly. So it's not always when you have a higher speed that it's always better. So it helped actually to get the dough together. And now after that I slightly increased the speed and kept kneading it, kept checking temperature. You see 25.7 degrees, 25.9 degrees. And so now I'm slowing the machine down, as you can see, so I can keep kneading a little bit. And now we've reached the 26 marks, and now I also shut the machine down. And I checked the gluten. It wasn't bad. So yeah, here I also made a little pause. I would suggest to keep it as short as possible, so don't overdo it. Don't go like 15 minutes and stuff. I think I did like a 5-minute break, just as much as it's necessary for the dough to cool down. As you've seen, like 25 degrees. So 25 degrees is a good mark. You can add the butter. You can see I'm starting off with the slowest speed, and again helping out with a little spoon, getting all the butter inside of the dough. And as you can see at this point, the dough looks already pretty good, and always measuring the temperature. 25.5 is a pretty good number. Yeah, at this point you can slightly increase the speed of the mixer. I put it on speed 2, and after some time I increased the speed a little more. And yeah, you observe the dough, you measure the temperature and adjust accordingly. So here I increase the speed slightly. So now it's pretty fast. And one more time, on the 4th speed here. So now it's mixing pretty fast. The temperature is still good. And yeah, after some time, for me it was 7 minutes, my dough was ready. But time can always vary. Maybe you will need 4 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. But as you can see, the gluten structure is strong. So we can further process to the very last and final step of adding, well, whatever you like, basically. You can add chocolate chips or whatever, candied oranges. I just added my raisins. And also it's very important here to keep the speed on number 1. So the slowest speed. You don't want to stress the dough, you don't want to stress the gluten at this final step. So you want to keep it on the slowest speed and just keep kneading it for around probably 4 to 6 minutes, I'd say, just until the dough is ready and the gluten is strong. And of course, the raisins or whatever you used is incorporated well into the dough. And I also wanted to note that I know in the video I always use the infrared thermometer, which mainly isn't used to examine the temperature of the dough, because you can't actually get inside. Therefore, you should use, at least sometimes, I would suggest to use a probe thermometer, but you can also use the infrared thermometer, but mainly, as I said, you use the infrared thermometer to get like the temperature of the pizza stone or the baking steel. I would like also use the infrared thermometer sometimes to not stop the kneading process, but for a more reliable temperature, use the probe thermometer, at least sometimes. So when getting the dough out, you want to wet your hands a little bit so the dough doesn't stick too much. And you take the dough gently out. I don't want to like stress it too much. You can see the bowl is pretty clean, and that's a good sign that the dough came out with one pull. And then you basically just do some stretch and folds as much as needed. You just trying to get some tension on the dough, on the surface of the dough, and build some strength, build the gluten. And when the dough starts sticking to the counter, then get yourself a helpful tool like the dough scraper, wet it, and here you go. So now we are gonna let it rest for 20 minutes airtight. I put the bowl upside down, I put the timer, and after the 20 minutes passed, we will do the exact same thing. Build the gluten, build strength, and then we let it rest, but this time in the open, without to cover it. And here you see the dough after I did the exact same thing, and now I rest it for 20 minutes. And here it is after the 20 minutes. I took the dough scraper, I again made a nice round ball, gently making a nice round ball, taking your panettone mold next to you and putting your dough into the panettone mold. And as always, we cover everything airtight. So I put a cloth to cover my dough so it doesn't dry up. I put the panettone mold into the oven, closed oven, no heat, no light, and it rested there for exactly 5 hours and 10 minutes. And then I took the panettone out of the oven, I still protected it airtight, so I put the bowl upside down and I started preheating my oven at 175 degrees for 30 minutes. And the time for your dough, of course, can vary. It may take only 4 hours, it may take 6 hours. It very depends on a lot of factors, but mostly on your room temperature. So at this point, my dough has already been fermenting, resting for 30 minutes. So has the oven already been preheating for 30 minutes. So after the 30 minutes, you take the lid off, you uncover the panettone, and then you let it rest for another 10 minutes uncovered, just in the open air. So after we reached our ideal temperature, we can, shut down the oven. We take the panettone out, remove the alufoil, of course, and now this is important for the panettone. We need to let it cool upside down. So you see me, I have like two metal sticks. And I basically, unfortunately you can't really see, but I push them like 1 centimeter over the bottom of the panettone. I push them through, it comes out the other side, I turn it, and afterwards I search a nice place. This is what I thought of, and I place my panettone there and let it cool fully, completely upside down for 8 to 12 hours. Alright, so the recipe is now finished, and I also have two files which I have created. And this is pCloud, this is the folder I created, and in here you see two files. I will start with the first one, and this is basically a recipe on sourdough. On sourdough, for either for people that are beginners with working with sourdough, or for people especially who don't have a sourdough but want to have one, want to make one and don't know how to start. This is basically it. I know it's everything is in German here. I'm sorry, I didn't have too much time to especially like format everything and put everything in here, so I just let it everything in German. But if you wanna like translate it, it's very easy. You can just like drag everything down, copy paste, put it maybe into ChatGPT and translate it in whatever language you want. Also like this here, these parts here, like when you tap, for example, here, this is the first page basically how to do a sourdough. All of that, the whole process, how to do a sourdough, what is hydration, what to do when the starter smells like a little alcoholic, how do I know if my starter is ready, what to do when the starter is ready, how to refresh it, like the whole process of refreshing, some important tips, and so on. How often do I need to refresh, and what to do when I go to holidays for 3 to 6 weeks, or even for more than 5 months, 6 months. What to do, how to feed the starter, how to refresh it after a long absence. All of these informations, and here also on the last pages you see a special dedication just for the sourdough of the Panettone. Yeah, you don't really need it. If you have experience with the starter, I think the video is quite plain. You'll understand, like, but if you want to go deeper and maybe, yeah, you need some more clarification, then definitely this file, I try to make it very detailed, as you can see, and I try to make it as clear as possible. Also with the ratios, like, but yeah, this is not too important now. But the more interesting part, I think, for everyone is the Excel file. And I also had to invest a lot of time for that one. So I'm gonna open it. And for this you need to download, because in here, like, you can't do nothing. So you're gonna download, you're gonna open the file, and here this is activate, like, to edit, so you can edit. And here as well, if you double click, you also have the same thing in the Word format. So well, you can save the file wherever you want on your desktop, and you can edit everything as you wish and create a PDF file for yourself if you want to. But mainly this is a file which calculates all the ingredients, the amounts of the ingredients for you. And it also, of course, how does the file work, etc. Lievito, how to do the Lievito. It's basically also a detailed, not necessarily more detailed, but it just has some details, and is a recipe, but in the written format, I'd say. Of the Lievito, of the first dough process. And you can see here how long I rested the dough, for example. And in here is the second part of kneading, and some tips, and resting, and shaping, and baking, and equipment. All right, you don't really need that too. And so this is basically the page, which you don't even necessarily need to translate it, probably, because these are the total ingredients. Like, let's say, all right, I used 550 grams for my panettone, so I typed in 550. All right, the formation, like the format of G or ml, is automatic, as well as the percent and everything. So I typed in 550 grams, and this is the flour. And these here are the total ingredients you need for everything. Like, of course, they are splitted. For example, the flour is splitted here, 440, and then on the second dough mix you have also other 110 grams, and then the total is 550. And yeah, so this is flour, Mehl ist Flour, Wasser ist Water, Lievito, Zucker ist Sugar, Eigelb ist Egg Yolks, Butter ist Butter and Salz is salt. The rest stays the same, and here at last you have the Rosinen, and this is basically raisins. And also what I wanted to say, like if you want to edit out of security reasons, I protected this file, so you can't just do something just for safety reasons. But of course, if you want to change something, you can always deactivate the part, and you just type in on check, and then here, and then you type in the Panettone, and then you will be able to change whatever you want. But some like for example that one, you can delete it if you don't want rosins, right? But this one, for example, you can't. And also these blue fields is something here. You can translate the part, and maybe also go in here and read something. But it's not, if you just want to do the exact same recipe, because I personally originally I wanted to use a little more butter, and that is why I created this one. Well, now 68 would be here. C16 is that one, C16, and 86% is a lot more. So I probably would use start using, if you want to use a little more butter, maybe go with 50% or 55. That's what I'm probably gonna do next time too, because as I said originally, I wanted to use more butter. I actually wanted to use 68% of butter, but I realized I only had like this 42% of butter. I didn't have any more butter, and all the stores were closed, so I couldn't get any more. And that is why, but the recipe was really great. Like of course I ate it, as you've seen in the video, and it was pretty perfect. But maybe the only thing I would maybe try to see how it is to add a little more butter next time. And yeah, you can change these fields, as you can see, like 68, all right, 68. So 34.43 plus 33.57 is 68 at the end. So let's say if you want to make 50% out of it, right? This changes, of course, and that's, let's say, you don't need to like, man, just 25, 137.5 plus 137.5 is 275 grams. This is very like detailed, but it's basically the half, right? So you can just 25, 50. All right, that's all you had to do. If you now, let's say you want, next time I probably will make 2 panettones. So I will type in 1100, and all the stuff changes. Everything changes. I don't have to do nothing else. I don't have to calculate anything. So this file basically does everything for me, and I think this will help you a lot too. So yeah, that's basically it. You can, of course, like save this file for yourself. You can use it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And yeah, I hope you like the recipe. If you have any further questions, just write a comment, ask ask something, I'll try to respond. And yeah, thank you for watching.